show last Sunday. So, what was it like to be on such an enormous stage for the performance? I'm Matthew Petty, and coming up on Florida Matters Live and Local, we'll talk with Sarasota Orchestra music director Giancarlo Guerrero. If you were watching, you would have seen him conducting an entourage of violinists during the show. We'll talk about how he got to be part of the performance. Also this hour, some Florida counties are seeing measles cases ticking up. What questions do you have about this highly contagious disease and how to keep you and your kids safe? Join the conversation. You can call 813-755-6562 or email FloridaMatters at WUSF.org. And if you're tired of restaurants and chocolate for Valentine's Day, we've got you covered with some out-of-the-box suggestions from around Tampa Bay. That's coming up. But first, these headlines.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The Trump administration is announcing an end to what Minnesota Governor Tim Walz characterizes as an unprecedented federal invasion. Today, Border Czar Tom Homan announced the heightened immigration enforcement presence in Minneapolis and St. Paul will wind down. NPR's Meg Anderson covered Homan's remarks today in Minneapolis, a flashpoint of the nationwide protests against sweeping immigration enforcement operations, including those that resulted in the deaths of 2 U.S. citizens last month.
He did not mention either Renee Macklin Good or Alex Preddy, the 2 people killed, though he did say he wanted an end to bloodshed. And he talked a lot about unlawful agitators in his remarks, referring to the people watching immigration agents, filming them, honking and whistling. Homan said they've arrested around 200 people for impeding operations, though legal experts told me that in other places, those arrests have not led to charges or convictions.
NPR's Meg Anderson reporting. The U.S. House has voted to rebuff President Trump's emergency tariffs on goods from Canada. 6 Republicans joined the Democrats in yesterday's vote. NPR's Frank Ordonez reports on the rare GOP rebuke to one of Trump's favorite economic tools.
Republicans have faced increasing pressure from constituents about high costs, and the business community is afraid to invest with all the uncertainty. Brendan Duke, who served at the National Economic Council in the Biden White House, says a new Congressional Budget Office report shows that companies are passing on 95% of those costs to consumers,
which flies directly in the face of the justifications that Trump and his entire administration has given for these sweeping taxes.
And Trump is pushing back. Last night, he threatened to support primary challengers against any Republican who votes against his tariffs. Franco Ordonez, NPR News, the White House.
The Trump administration is preparing to roll back key aspects of an Obama-era policy to limit human-caused climate change. The EPA wants to rescind the endangerment finding through which the agency had been regulating climate pollution from cars, power plants, and the oil and gas industry. Ukraine's capital came under a massive missile and drone attack in the early morning hours, the damage still being assessed. Here's NPR's Eleanor Beardsley.
The attack began with missiles that shook the air, followed by the buzzing of Iranian-made drones. Ukraine's air defenses went into high gear. A mass attack on the capital is underway, said Kyiv Mayor Vitaly Klitschko on Telegram. Residents get an alert through an app on their telephones, and alarms blare across the city a couple minutes ahead of such attacks. But after 4 years of war, Ukrainians are getting used to it. Foreign journalists, not so much. Eleanor Beardsley, NPR News, Kyiv.
It's NPR.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Capital One, offering their premium travel card, Venture X. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Details at CapitalOne.com. And listeners like you who donate to this NPR station.
You're listening to WUSF 89.7. I'm Craig Kopp. State lawmakers are considering a number of proposals that would eliminate non-school property taxes entirely, but that also means other taxes would have to be increased to make up for the revenue loss, or services could be cut off. The Florida Policy Institute released a list of which counties would lose the most revenue. Hillsborough, Pinellas, and Pasco all made the top 10. Esteban Santis is the Institute's Director of Research.
If you were to eliminate the non-school homesteads, we're looking at an impact of $1.2 billion annually that Hillsborough County would have to make up.
He also says the statewide loss could be more than $18 billion a year. Any proposals lawmakers pass would need the approval of 60% of voters in November to become state law. As Florida's legislative session reaches its midpoint, some environmentalists are finding some hope in several bills. One by State Representative Kim Kendall of St. Johns County would require the state to give at least 30 days' notice if the state is selling conservation land. A proposed land swap with a developer in her district was stopped after it was publicized just 1 week before a scheduled vote. Paul Owens of the smart growth advocacy group 1,000 Friends of Florida says that incident motivated Kendall.
Well, a public backlash was enough to defeat the swap. Kendall said the episode highlighted gaps in procedures to protect conservation land.
Another swap for part of a state forest in Hernando County was stopped only after a public outcry last year. The American flamingo is one step closer to becoming the state bird of Florida. Several lawmakers wore pink as the Florida House voted overwhelmingly late yesterday to make the switch. Republican Representative Alex Andrade was the only no vote. He says the pelican should be the state bird. And if it does become law, this would knock the mockingbird off its perch after nearly a century. I'm Craig Kopp, WUSF 89.7 News.
The Winter Olympics in Milan have begun, and our partners at NPR are there. Keep listening to WUSF to hear great stories and to keep track of the medal count. Plus, you can get that content online too at WUSF.org and on the WUSF app.
Few melodies soar like Bruch's Violin Concerto No. 1. Experience it with violinist Aubrey Oliverson and the Florida Orchestra at the Mahaffey Theater and Ruth Eckerd Hall, February 21st and 22nd. Tickets at floridaorchestra.org.
This is Florida Matters, live and local, sponsored by Badawi Law. And we're broadcasting from the Doctors Lorraine Rubis and Neil Frankel studio at WUSF in Tampa. I'm Matthew Petty. Now, if you were one of the 128 million or so people watching Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime show last Sunday, you would have seen and heard a shift in tempo a few minutes in.
Buenas tardes, California. Mi nombre es Benito Antonio Martínez Ocasio.
While conducting the violinists on either side of Bad Bunny, right before the show pivoted to an actual wedding, Giancarlo Guerrero. He's the music director of the Sarasota Orchestra, and he joins us now to talk about how he got to play a role in the dazzling halftime show which lit up Levi Stadium. Now, if you've got questions for Giancarlo, you can call in 813-755-6562. You can also send us an email, FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Giancarlo, thank you so much for being with us.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me.
There was a lot going on in that 13-minute show. What did it sound like to be right in the middle of it?
It was absolutely spectacular. We had a dress rehearsal on the Thursday before the game, and we had the fireworks and everything, but of course, nothing matches watching that stadium with 70,000 people literally dancing and jumping. It was very electric and something I will not forget in my life.
How much adrenaline is going through you at a time like that?
It is absolutely electric. Honestly, every part of your body is really on a state of almost, euphoria. And just the idea that you're making music and that you are performing what it is basically your life, and to do it in front of so many people really, hits you at that moment. And from that specific moment, I honestly felt so proud to be a musician and to be part of something so big.
Now, did you walk out alongside the now famous Grass people? And I'm wondering if you had a chance to chat with them?
Of course, that was the best part of the whole show. The fact that we were all together, 800 performers plus all the staff from every imaginable background, and all of us coming together for one common purpose, which I think is the most beautiful message that you can think of. And of course, as we were rehearsing and finding our spots and how we go in and how we go out, of course, you're going to be running into dancers and singers and musicians and grass people, who I think, honestly, is going to be the most popular Halloween costume this year.
Yeah, sort of like the left shark or whatever it was from a few Super Bowls back. Now, I read Bad Bunny asked for you personally, so how did this happen? This is something that probably doesn't happen every day, but how did this come about?
So the Saturday before, the week before the Super Bowl, I was at home in Miami, and I got a phone call from my manager who said, I got a call from somebody who says is the manager for Bad Bunny, and apparently there is this string orchestra that is going to be involved in the show. And Bad Bunny Benito wanted not only a real string orchestra, but he also wanted a real conductor. And somewhere in there, he had heard of me. He knew of me, of my career. I have a feeling it's maybe because of the Grammys. We both have 6 now, so I think that may have a connection there. And he said that he's asking for you. And first of all, he said, "Do you know who Bad Bunny is?" And I said, "Of course I do. I have a wife and 2 daughters. I know, of course, who he is." And immediately, my first thought was, I mean, is this some sort of a joke? I mean, Super Bowl, NFL, Bad Bunny, conductor, classical music. I didn't make the connection immediately, and there was a part of me that this could easily be a prank call of some sort. But very quickly, I found out that it was not. I called my daughters. I told them about it. They also thought it was a joke. It took me a while to convince them. And at the end, it was a wonderful opportunity that I could not pass up, and I was so proud to be a part of it.
Did you just say yes on the spot, or did you have to think, okay, what have I got to move around to make this happen?
You know what? I immediately said yes. And it was after that that I started thinking, okay, hang on a second. I have to be in San Francisco in 2 days. And more importantly, what am I getting myself into? I know how to do the conducting and all that, but what am I going to be a part of? They mentioned something about arriving on the day and doing an outfit fitting and all that. What am I going to be wearing? Am I going to be one of the grass people? I mean, I had no idea. For those 2 days, it was a little bit of an anxiety. But when I arrived there, it was absolutely phenomenal. Everybody could not have been more professional, more generous. It was truly, truly inspirational to be surrounded by so many people that were all working together for one common purpose.
And so, I mean, there's obviously quite a bit of secrecy surrounding these things, because that's part of the element of surprise, right? People wonder what the show is going to be about, so they try and keep some of it under wraps. Did they give you a good idea of here's what the thing is going to look like in its entirety, or like this is just what you're going to be doing? You just have to kind of wait and see what the entire thing pans out to be.
Well, the first thing that happened when I arrived at the stadium on Tuesday is they gave me my credentials and they said, "Give us your phone." And they put covers on the lenses and the cameras, and all over the stadium, there are all of these signs that says, "Don't you dare post anything about what you're seeing here and what is happening. No names of the song. Everything is completely confidential." And when you have more than 1,000 people literally in there, it's actually quite miraculous that they keep it secret. But from the very beginning, as you could remember in the show, there were about 8 or 9 different stages. He was moving around as the music styles were changing. So at first, we're kind of focused on what we are to do and how we're coming in and getting out. But then as the day progressed, the next day, we started putting it together. So what's happening before us, what's happening after us. So all of these things, as we were was getting bigger and bigger. But even by the end of the show, I still haven't seen it, by the way, from beginning to end. I am sure I missed a lot of this just because there was so much happening and we were focused on what we were doing that the complexity of it all is truly mind-blowing.
Yeah. If you're just tuning in, we're talking with Sarasota Orchestra music director Giancarlo Guerrero. He's talking about his role in the Super Bowl 60 halftime show last Sunday. If you watched it, you probably caught a glimpse of him conducting a kind of phalanx of violinists as Bad Bunny walked out just before that wedding, the actual wedding they pivoted to right in the middle of it. You can give us a call if you've got questions about what it's like to be part of an extravaganza like the halftime show. The number is 813-755-6562 or email FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Is this kind of a new experience for you, so being part of a show that you have to just keep totally under wraps until showtime?
Absolutely. I mean, the whole experience is unlike anything I've ever experienced. I mean, let's face it. I mean, this is something that was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, honestly, and it was truly life-changing from every aspect of just something that is so complex that in so many ways the producers and the people that are in charge of putting this together make it look so easy. But all of the glory should go to the performers themselves who work so hard and without ever questioning anything. If we need to do this 20 times, we do it 20 times and we do it with joy. And in the end, you could see that not only the performance was flawless, but you could see the faces of happiness and everybody, that we all knew that this was life-changing, historic, and all of the above, and it's going to stay with us for the rest of our lives.
Yeah. Now, did you, obviously a lot of performers involved, a massive staff to pull off something that size. Did you actually spend any time at all to chat with Bad Bunny himself?
So I met him before the show. There was an area outside of the stadium that was called the halftime compound. And they had some trailers with dressing rooms that they had set up. And basically, all of the main artists, Bad Bunny, Ricky Martin, Lady Gaga, and everybody else, including myself, they put us in this little compound that was very much sealed from everything else, a lot of security around. But in the end, we were all kind of hanging around in this very small area. There was a Domino's table, and I ran into him, and we started chatting. My wife was with me, and he could not have been nicer. I mean, he came up and said, "Listen, I'm so grateful that you accepted the invitation. And something that really stuck with me was the fact that he said, I wanted to have real strings because, I could have easily brought a synthesizer or something, but that's not the point. He said, I have too much respect for what you guys do in your field as classical musicians, that you needed to be put in the correct light. You needed to be presented in the right context. And he said, that's why I wanted the actual thing. And he said, I was so delighted you accepted the invitation. I said, listen, I could not be more proud to be a part of this. But when he mentioned that thing about the music itself, that made my admiration for him even go higher. And the whole time that we spent together before, and then afterwards I ran into him again, and once again he was very, very thankful and generous to all of us. I have to tell you, he's a real class act, somebody that is so curious and really is focused on the most important part, which is the music itself.
Yeah.
And that was, to me, absolutely a joy to get a chance to spend time with him.
And just quickly, if we could, what is that piece of music? What can you tell us about it and its connection to the halftime show?
Well, that's the best part of it. That, as you said, we had to keep it all secret that this was actually happening. And even as I said, if you saw Lady Gaga or Ricky Martin, you did not see them. This is not happening. And honestly, this piece is actually part of a tune that's called Monaco. But the opening is actually based on a tune by the great French balladeer Charles Aznavour from the 1960s and 70s, which is called Here Encore. So they just kind of rearranged it into a string orchestra. And then that led into the song Monaco, which is by Bad Bunny.
Mm-hmm. Is there anyone else sort of on your bucket list of performers you would like to conduct with or perform with?
Listen, there are too many. Honestly, outside of classical music, I love rock and roll, heavy metal rock, and I grew up listening to, my favorite band is actually Rush, the progressive Canadian band. I've seen pretty much every tour since then. I would say that if I get a chance, I would have loved to do it, but by now it may be a little too late.
Well, it's not too late. I think there's probably an opportunity there, but I wanted to ask you real quick too. I mean, you're from Costa Rica. What was it like to be part of this giant celebration of all of America?
I am from Costa Rica, but I was born in Nicaragua. I lived in Venezuela. Now I live in the United States. Honestly, I think that is a reflection of that we all come from somewhere. And as I said before, as the whole staff came together to do this, every imaginable background was there, not just Hispanic or Latino, every single one of them. And it was so beautiful to be in the middle of something that you feel like you belong, that you're part of that. And the music is the one thing that brought us all together. So honestly, for me as a classical musician, when you think Costa Rica or Nicaragua, you never think of these places like the meccas of classical music. Well, we are changing that. And I am forever grateful to Benito, Bad Bunny, for putting classical music on the spotlight. This is an art form that normally doesn't get showcased in something like a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. And the fact that he wanted to include it, I think, sends a very, very strong message that all music is great. All music is to be celebrated. And I think opera companies and classical orchestras and symphonic orchestras all over the world are very grateful that a spotlight was put on us, because all of a sudden we belong as well in the pantheon of great music around the world.
Well, Giancarlo Guerrero, music director of the Sarasota Orchestra, he took part in Bad Bunny's halftime show at Levi's Stadium in California last Sunday. Thank you so much, Maestro. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Well, coming up next, the latest in the long-running battle to save the Everglades and how the detention center dubbed Alligator Alcatraz has reanimated the fight. You're listening to Florida Matters, live and local. Much more to come in a moment. Stay with us.
Celebrate the most romantic day of the year at Bach Tower Gardens. Stroll the gardens, discover hidden romantic nooks, enjoy a carillon concert, and hear Classer and String Quartet perform love songs on February 14th. Details at bachtowergardens.org. Support for the Zest podcast comes from WUSF members and Adelaide Interiors, with a new location now open on Kennedy Boulevard in Tampa, offering hands-on learning sessions in their wellness kitchen, where design meets well-being. Learn more and see the schedule at adelaide.com.
Start the new year with clarity. Your $20 monthly gift strengthens fact-based reporting right here in West Central Florida and keeps trusted news accessible to everyone. In a year when our community needs reliable information more than ever, you can help lead the way. Begin your new year as a new member at WUSF.org, and thank you.
Welcome back to Florida Matters, live and local. I'm Matthew Petty. We're broadcasting from the Doctors Lorraine Rubis and Neil Frankel studio at WSF in Tampa. Well, defending Florida's Everglades is a battle spanning decades, but last year's construction of Alligator Alcatraz, that's the Immigration Detention Center, that reignited the fight in many conservationists. And WSF's Megan Bowman has mapped out that fight, starting with environmental controversies in the 1960s, and she's reporting on the current lawsuits filed by environmental groups and the Miccosukee tribe who live near the detention center. Well, if the Everglades are close to your heart, you can join the conversation. Give us a call, 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. You can also email FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Megan's documentary, Defending the Everglades, again explains how Alligator Alcatraz awoke a decades-long fight to protect the Everglades, and the documentary is now available at WUSF.org/Everglades. Megan is with us now. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Of course.
Now, you spent some time reporting on this, but why did you initially plan to create a half-hour video documentary?
No, I absolutely didn't. Honestly, when I first went down there, I really didn't know what to expect or how I'd even use the reporting I did get. I will say that I think this entire project has grown pretty organically from all the work that we've done, multiple trips down there. And over months, like you said, it has felt very natural to make this, though, because we had so much fascinating information to share.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of it goes back a long way, too, right? So how did that sort of discovery of this connection between the current lawsuit and this 60-year-long environmental battle come up?
Yeah, well, when I started reporting on the detention center, I started looking into the location's background. So both my editor, Amy Tardif, and I kind of find this treasure trove of old documents, like newspaper articles and congressional hearings, a law review article. I mean, that mapped everything out, photos, videos, all from the 1960s and 70s about this proposed jet port. And it was just...
Some of the images, I mean, I got to say, the things that kind of piqued my interest are those futuristic-looking pictures of supersonic jets that never got built from back in the 1960s,
It
right?
does have like a very that kind of era look to it. It's very cool.
Yeah. So if you are invested in the Everglades, you think a lot about this place, maybe you've been there, you can give us a call, let us know. The number is 813-755-6562. You can also send us an email, FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Maybe you are thinking about what can be done to save the Everglades. Now let's just hear a little bit from Governor Ron DeSantis. He's spoken out in favor of restoring the Everglades.
Needless to say, we're going to continue our support for Everglades restoration and all we've done to be able to promote conservation and water quality in the free state of Florida. It's been important, it's been meaningful, it's made a difference.
All right, so, I mean, that's from a fairly recent media opportunity from the governor, but he really launched his initial gubernatorial campaign with this as a key plank in his platform, right? He was out there saying Everglades restoration is going to be a part of this. So that's been something he's been talking about from the get-go as governor.
Yeah, since he took office, his administration has invested about $8 billion into Everglades restoration. However, while doing that, he's also fast-tracked construction of the detention center, which could have long and serious environmental impacts.
Yeah, and let's just hear a little bit from Florida landscape photographer Clyde Butcher, who finds DeSantis' support hypocritical.
They just don't care. I mean, he wants to be known for helping to save the Everglades, and here he's destroying it. Nat Reed, Joe Browder, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, a whole series of very important people have spent their lives protecting the Everglades. So now we're disrespecting all those really people that spent their life trying to protect the Everglades and to make it safe for future people.
Of course, that's from your documentary, Defending the Everglades again. So, I mean, just go into that a little more. What does he find so kind of challenging or ironic about the governor vouching for Everglades restoration?
Well, to Clyde's point, he's saying, yes, the governor is working to restore the Everglades, but there's also this other side, right, of the construction and the fast track of it. So, Clyde came into this fight a little later than some of those original folks that he mentions, like Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, Nat Reed, Joe Browder. Those folks were instrumental in getting the state and federal government to kind of change course. So Clyde came on, and he's sort of, I don't want to say on their backs, but he's fighting that same fight. It didn't necessarily start in the Jetport, but he spent 40 years trying to, educate the public on how important this land and the River of Grass is.
Yeah. And you kind of spent quite a bit of time with Clyde Butcher, and he's a key part of your documentary. What is it that about the Everglades that has this hold on him? Why is it such a special place?
Well, in 1986, Clyde lost his son in a drunk driving accident, and it was Big Cypress that actually saved him. He went out there, he started photographing nature, and he found peace. That's eventually where he opened up one of his galleries. He has another one in Venice, and he's been there. He hosts these huge swamp walks where people can come down and literally, put on the suit, the rubber suit, and go walk through, the swamp.
Have you done one of these?
I have not. It's on my list, I swear, but we'll get there.
Yeah. And he's also got an exhibition on at the moment. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's a look at his 50-year career, and it's right now through March 19th at the Bishop Museum of Science and Nature in Bradenton.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so he mentioned that list of people, and it sort of starts with Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, right? She really kicked off this quest to protect this part of Florida.
Yeah, so in 1969, she was 79 years old. That's when she founded Friends of the Everglades to oppose the Jetport. Full circle moment, right? All of the regulations and stuff that came out of this Jetport, and those are the things that Friends of the Everglades, her group that she founded, is fighting again today.
Now, this history obviously has an ongoing lawsuit. Just what is the latest on that lawsuit, Megan?
Yeah, so the lawsuit is ongoing, like you said, but it is important to remember through all the court orders to pause operations and then unpause operations and then pause it again, the detention center has remained open. So people are still being detained there. It is not fully closed, right? But lawyers will go back into court on April 7th, which just so happens to be Marjorie Stoneman Douglas's birthday.
Oh, well, what a coincidence. I think, one of the people you talked to, Eve Samples, actually made that point. She said every day this detention center stays open, it's doing more damage.
Yeah, and there are a lot of things being argued in court about, can they be there? Can they not be there? But at the end of the day, like you said, that's exactly what all of these groups are saying. Like, hey, we fought this in the early 60s and 70s and won, and now we're having to do it all over again.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can catch Megan's documentary, Defending the Everglades, again. You can find it on our website, WUSF.org, and check it out there. It's a good watch. Megan Bowman with WUSF, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Well, coming up next, the formerly eradicated measles virus is back in Florida. Stay with us to hear about safety tips. You're listening to Florida Matters Live and Local. More to come in a moment.
Hey, I'm Gabriella Paul, and I report on people living paycheck to paycheck in the region.
They're firefighters, they're teachers, they're nurses, but they don't make enough money to pay the bills. And they're one paycheck away from being on the street or in some sort of substandard housing.
At WUSF, I tell your stories about the rising cost of living.
WUSF depends on contributions from people like you. And Badawi Law, offering legal services in personal injury, immigration, and auto accidents, with offices in Tampa, Florida. Office information and practice details at BadawiLaw.com or learn more on Instagram at Badawi Law. Sarasota Opera presents its 2026 Winter Opera Festival featuring Puccini's La Bohème, Floyd's Susanna, and more. These performances run February 14th through March 29th. Tickets at sarasotaopera.org.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. Measles is back, and this year Florida is one state seeing a surge in cases for a disease that was declared eliminated in the year 2000. As of yesterday morning, Ave Maria University in Naples reports 57 students have the measles. Just last week, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention confirmed cases in Florida at 13, makes it one of the 5 states with the highest number of measles infections, behind states like South Carolina and Utah. And Florida's own health department says there's a total of 66 confirmed cases in the state as of February 7th. It's coming at a time when vaccines, once championed, are now viewed by some with skepticism. That's because of safety concerns or religious beliefs, or people just don't believe in them. Governor Ron DeSantis is pushing to end the vaccine requirement for school-age kids, and other state leaders are backing up in the name of medical freedom. Here's Surgeon General Dr. Joseph Ladapo back in September.
The Florida Department of Health, in partnership with the governor, is going to be working to end all vaccine mandates in Florida law. All of them.
Now, those in Florida healthcare find themselves working to stave off a highly contagious yet highly preventable disease. So, does the rise in measles cases reveal a flaw in Florida's approach to vaccines? Are you more skeptical of vaccines than the diseases themselves? We want to hear from you. Give us a call, 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. You can also email FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. And here to talk more about the return of measles in Florida, Dr. Juan Antonio Dumois, pediatric infectious diseases physician at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital. Dr. Dumois, thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
I'm also joined by Kerry Barber, reporter with our fellow NPR station WGCU covering Southwest Florida. Kerry, thank you too.
Thanks for having me.
So, Dr. Dumois, let me start with you. I thought we'd eradicated this disease decades ago. So what is going on with the number of measles cases right now?
Well, what we're seeing is the number of cases are going up because fewer children have been getting vaccinated to an extent that we no longer have herd immunity against measles.
Yeah, talk more about that, because during COVID we heard a lot about herd immunity. What exactly does it mean?
Yeah, herd immunity is when enough people in a community have immunity against a disease to where if the disease is introduced into that community, it can't spread easily because so many people are protected against it. And herd immunity requirements are higher for diseases that are more contagious. And measles is the most contagious disease that we know of in the way that it's spread through the air.
Is there something like, do you think there's something like a sort of vaccine fatigue that's making people maybe turn away from something like a MMR vaccine?
I think that's often the case, especially with what happened during the pandemic and the rapid development of new vaccines. The way messages were put out to the public were often confusing, so that people didn't quite understand either the usefulness or the safety of those vaccines, and increased the amount of skepticism that already existed.
If you're just joining us on Florida Matters Live and Local, we're talking about measles with Dr. Dumois. He's a pediatric infectious disease physician. You can join the conversation. Are you thinking about getting a booster? Are you worried about the effect of eliminating school vaccines? Give us a call, 813-755-6562. You can also email FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. And Kerry Barber with WGCU, let me bring you into this conversation. What is going on with measles cases in Collier County right now?
Well, Collier County is the site of a small Catholic university called Ave Maria University. It has about 1,300 students, and there has been a measles outbreak there that started. The first case was confirmed on January 29th. And since then, I think you mentioned there have been 57 documented cases there. It's Catholic, which doesn't necessarily mean anti-vax, but in this case, they seem to have sort of a libertarian streak, and they don't require their students to be vaccinated. 90% of the student body lives on campus, so it's not surprising that it would spread quickly and easily as it has.
And what about getting data on this outbreak from the health department? How's that going?
That I feel like is really the bigger story that I, as a local reporter, cannot get. The school would not call me back. The Collier County Department of Health would not answer my calls, and the Florida Department of Health would not respond. There's been a physician's assistant at a nearby private clinic who's been really great. He's been an invaluable source of info about, this is a public health crisis that people need to know about. So we're really seeing how the lack of communication with journalists is breaking down and is really causing harm.
If you're just joining us, we're talking with Kerry Barber, WGCU's reporter who's covering a measles outbreak in southwest Florida in Collier County. Also with us, Dr. Juan Antonio Dumois, pediatric infectious diseases physician at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital. Are you worried about measles? You can give us a call, 813-755-6562. What are you thinking about the uptick in cases in Florida and other states? And what about Florida's approach to vaccination? Give us a call, 813-755-6562, or online. You can reach out to us by sending us an email, FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Dr. Dumois, what symptoms should people be looking out for?
Well, measles always starts off like any other cold with fever, congestion in the nose, coughing, and then you get some redness in the eyes, right on the eyeballs. Then a rash appears about 3 or 4 days later. And that rash typically starts on the face, and then it spreads down the body as if a bucket of rash was poured on a child's head. That rash spreads for several days. And as it spreads down the rest of the body, it becomes more confluent on the face.
So you mentioned children, and of course, I tend to think of measles as being a disease that's probably more likely to affect kids. But what about other people who might be at risk? Like who should be thinking about this?
Well, that's a good point. My bias is for children since I'm a pediatrician, but anybody who doesn't have immunity can develop measles if they're exposed. It's so contagious that if you're in a building with someone else who has measles and you breathe the same air, you've got a 90% chance of getting it. People may lack immunity because they've never had the disease, or they've never had the vaccine, or they may be on a medication that weakens the immune system and that medicine's used to treat some other condition.
If you do get it and you're unvaccinated, what do you do? Like, what kind of recourse can you take to make sure you minimize the impact of measles? Because it can be pretty serious, right?
It can be. In the best case, you feel terrible for a good week and are improving over the course of the second week. Besides trying to take care of yourself, you also want to be cognizant of the fact that you can spread it to other people who aren't vaccinated for 4 days before and 4 days after the rash starts. But once you get sick, then there's no treatment against the measles virus. Now, we do give vitamin A to people that we diagnose with new measles, just in case they happen to be vitamin A deficient to start with. And that happens a lot more in developing countries.
But vitamin A is not a kind of a blanket thing that's going to help everyone necessarily.
No. If your vitamin A levels are already okay because you eat fine and everything, then vitamin A won't help you. And in cases where you're vitamin A deficient, it decreases your chance of dying or ending up in the hospital, but you're still going to have measles. And vitamin A does not prevent measles at all. So if you don't have it yet, there's no point in taking it.
Kerry,
but other than that, we're just treating the symptoms and the complications of measles.
Right. Now, Kerry, just back to you for a moment. You reported on measles last year. I'm wondering, has there been a change in kind of the data that you've been getting or access to data in that time?
Yeah, we've been able to get less data.
Okay.
And Also, I mean, you mentioned before, do you think people have vaccine fatigue? I think, the fact that our Surgeon General in Florida went public in September and said, we don't think people need to get vaccines. I mean, that's the leadership of public health in the state. So I feel like people, as the doctor said, people are getting really mixed messages and they don't know what to do. Plus, now, as you asked, we reporters are getting less data.
The number is 813-755-6562. If you've got questions, thoughts about the measles outbreak, which is, cases are ticking up in Florida and in other states too, and thoughts about Florida's approach to vaccines, give us a call, 813-755-6562. Kerry, last month you spoke with a couple members of the Florida Health Professionals for Scientific Integrity. What did they have to say about our state's end or bid to end vaccine mandates in schools?
Yeah, this is a really interesting group. It's made up of physicians, the retired CEO of Lee Health, which is our biggest health system around here. And there's another allied group called Grandparents for Vaccines. And they're kind of older folks who lived through these terrible diseases before vaccines. And many of them had polio, or they knew people who had polio. And they've gone out of their way to educate their children and their grandchildren, because those generations, were the victim of our own success, where the younger folks haven't seen the diseases and they think, oh, what's the big deal? Polio vaccine, who cares? But these people know that they went through their childhood terrified to get polio, and some people who got it and had their mobility cut short, et cetera. So these grandparents, as they call themselves, are trying to educate, and they're trying to speak to our legislators about how important this is, and that it's not something we can just cavalierly brush away.
Yeah. Dr. Dumois, I've heard that if you get measles and you're unvaccinated and there's a certain window where you could actually get a vaccine and it will have some impact. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the vaccine is so good at stimulating immunity that if I get exposed to someone with measles today, I have 3 days to get a dose of the vaccine, because I've never had one before, and it will stimulate my immune system so quickly that it will help protect me against having measles while that virus is in my body, incubating, trying to make me sick. The normal incubation period, which is when you get infected with the virus to when you start showing symptoms, is about 10 days. So early in that 10 days is when you have the opportunity for the measles vaccine to protect you.
What would you say to parents who have children too young to be vaccinated, but they want to make sure their little ones are protected?
Well, we don't routinely give measles vaccine under 1 year of age, but in the event of an outbreak in one's community, we can give it as young as 6 months of age, but there are a lot of kids under 6 months of age.
Mm-hmm.
Having everyone around that baby immunized creates sort of a cocoon effect of decreasing the risk that the people caring for that baby will give the baby measles. And the other way to prevent exposure is don't leave the home.
Yeah.
Because if that baby does not leave the home and everyone around them is immunized, they're not going to get exposed to somebody else's airborne measles in a restaurant or the grocery store.
Yeah, and that's not really an option. It's going to be an option for a lot of people, right? It seems
exactly
kind of unrealistic. We sort of saw some of the limits of that during COVID. In the last 30 seconds or so here, Kerry, what are you expecting to see next, or what are you watching for as you report on this?
Well, I am expecting more cases of measles, unfortunately. I mean, I know there was a study in JAMA that did sort of a modeling, and it predicted 51.2 million measles cases over the next 25 years because of the decline in childhood vaccination. So this is an area that has a lot of people who don't believe in vaccines. So I do believe it's going to only spread for 2026.
All right, could be a busy few months for you. Kerry Barber, WGCU reporter, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And also with us, Dr. Juan Antonio Dumois, pediatric infectious diseases physician at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital. Dr. Dumois, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, coming up next, from vaccines to Valentines, a Tampa Bay Times reporter's got us covered with some ways to woo our Tampa Bays for Valentine's Day. You're listening to Florida Matters Live and Local. More to come in a moment.
I'm Robin Young. A classmate of Elliston Berry's circulated a deep-fake nude photo of her. Since then, she's helped pass a law and design a curriculum to help others that's also helped her.
Well, initially it destroyed my whole life, but spreading awareness, it's almost like it's healed something in me.
Next time, Here and Now.
Join us this afternoon from 1 to 3 on WUSF 89.7.
Support for WUSF comes from listeners like you and from Tampa Bay Solar, with a portfolio of commercial, residential, and special projects dedicated to providing long-term value and sustainability with solar while contributing to Florida's transition to clean, renewable energy. Learn more at tampabaysolar.com. The Raymond James Gasparilla Festival of the Arts is back. Enjoy the work of 250 artists, children's activities, and live entertainment at Tampa's Julian B. Lane Riverfront Park. February 28th and March 1st, visit GasparillaArts.org.
WUSF brings you stories of people who overcame adversity, like a woman in Safety Harbor who used a county program to rebuild after Hurricane Milton.
It looked like a beach. Water, sand, leaves was all over the place. Furniture was soaking wet. In a sense, it was a good thing because we kind of got like a new house out of it.
WUSF is your spot for local resources. Thanks for listening.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. It's almost Valentine's Day, the day of love, celebrated around the world, but some of the origins of this day are a bit murky. It has been recognized, however, as a day celebrating love since the 17th century. Back then, people drew names from hats and got married. Today, things are a little bit different. People celebrate by sending flowers and cards, and Hallmark, the card company, estimates that about 145 million cards are exchanged every year. That makes it the second largest holiday for greeting cards. People also celebrate by having a nice dinner or doing something fun. So how do you celebrate Valentine's Day, and what are your plans for this year? We want to hear about them. Give us a call, 813-755-6562. You can also send us an email, floridamatters@wusf.org. Well, our guest today knows how to find cool things to do around town. Gabrielle Calisi is the culture and nostalgia reporter at the Tampa Bay Times, and she joins us to talk about some fun Valentine's Day themed things to do in the city this weekend. Gabrielle, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me. I love this topic, so I'm very excited.
Well, that's good because we got some things to talk about. So there's quite a bit happening this weekend, right? So what are some events that stand out for you for couples and people in love?
This is a really big weekend for pretty much anyone. I mean, if you are someone that is one of those Tampa Pirates, we have the Gasparilla Night Parade Saturday, which is kind of a goofy way to celebrate Valentine's Day, but for the right person and a lot of people here in Tampa.
So if you didn't get all your Gasparilla pirating out of your system in the last few weeks, you can bring it back.
Yeah, go to Ybor City. It is a little crazier, more of an adult celebration. But something that is also really cool is I recently wrote about Pirate Fashions, which is this costume store in Tampa that's just pirate outfits. And they are having a BOGO outfit sale. So if you and your loved one have been in the market for a pirate costume, it's a really cool spot to go and have like a fun adventure. You literally ring a bell when you first enter the store and have to walk a plank. And there's this huge pirate ship and all the employees are dressed in full outfits and personas. So it's kind of a fun way in a very Tampa spirit to celebrate the day.
Yeah. Okay, so if you are having a solo Valentine's Day, what are some good events around the area that would be good for one person or somebody who wants to have fun with other solo celebrators?
I have two for this one. So the first one is Saturday is Localtopia, which is St. Petersburg's celebration of all things local. There are over 300 vendors, local businesses. It's all businesses in St. Pete, so you really get a sense for city pride. And it's fun to just go, you can go with a friend, by yourself, and just walk around, get a bite, check out all of the cool creators and artists. There's live music, and it's a ton of fun. And the other one is kind of a self-love slash Valentine's Day vibe. The Ladies Rock Camp concert is Sunday on the 15th, also in St. Petersburg at Bay Borough Brewing. And this is the showcase for the 3.5 day kind of summer camp vibe program where ladies and gender expansive folks of all ages and generations get together. They learn how to play an instrument, they write a song in a brand new band, and then they perform it at this concert. And I can attest that this is a very cool experience because I actually wrote about the first Ladies Rock Camp that happened in St. Petersburg 2 years ago. And the band that I formed during that camp is still going. And it was a great way to make friends. So we're actually going to be performing at that concert. But even if I wasn't, I would recommend it because it's just super cool and a great way to meet, women and kind of celebrate friendship and sisterhood.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me more about your band. What do you play?
Yeah, our band is called Hex Appeal. I play guitar. I'm one of the singers. Four of the five of us sing. Although our drummer, KJ, she doesn't sing, but she does a really cool like slide whistle sound with her mouth. So
Okay.
we'll get her there. But we're multi-generational, all women. I'm in my 30s, but we have women in their 40s and 50s as well. And it's just really cool because it's the adult version of Girls Rock Camp, which is this summer camp that happens in St. Pete. But there's also chapters in Gainesville, Miami. It's kind of this international movement to create confidence and friendship. And so kind of fits the vibe of this weekend.
Yeah, indeed. Now, if you're just joining us, we're talking with Gabrielle Calisi. She's the culture and nostalgia reporter at the Tampa Bay Times. I want to hear from you too. If you've got plans for Valentine's Day, or maybe you're looking for some ideas, 813-755-6562 is the number. You can also reach out at FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. That's our email address, or drop us a line on our YouTube channel. Now, you recently went to the fair, Gabrielle, and tried out some good food. Does the fair make a good Valentine's Day?
Yes, I think that it is such a nostalgic, romantic vibe. And also, it kind of has something for everyone, right? So there's rides and things if you're like a thrill seeker, if you are into, kind of the kooky music or things like corgi racing or, seals dancing to Michael Jackson. Like they have kind of that sort of atmosphere. But the
Hang
food
on a
is,
minute.
I think,
I got to stop you for a minute. You said corgi racing?
yeah.
Okay.
There's all kinds of stuff that's happening every day at the fair. We went last week. It was me and some of the folks from the food hub over at the Tampa Bay Times. And our goal was to try as many of the weird foods as possible, but we did get distracted by some of these other happenings. And we actually really enjoyed a lot of the stuff that we tried. There was a deep fried Cuban sandwich burrito that kind of was like a Cuban inside of an egg roll. There's all kinds of different funnel cakes. I know the Dubai chocolate trend is kind of like starting to be on its way out, but we really enjoyed that in funnel cake form. There's this thing called a dill devil, which is like a pickle that's cut in half and hollowed out, and then they put sort of this deviled egg goop on top of it. And so it's kind of fun. This is, I think, a good low pressure early date if this is a Valentine's Day where you're, maybe it's the first year that you're dating someone and you're like, there's plenty to do and see to kind of like distract and take the pressure off.
Yeah.
But
And you're not
also
going to
to
break the bank either, necessarily.
it depends. That Dubai chocolate funnel cake was $18.
Oh,
I was a
wow.
little shocked.
That doesn't
but
sound like
you
fair food prices to me.
No, it's kind of pricey, but it's the fair. It comes once a year.
Yeah, for sure. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we spoke to Tampa Theatre about their Black Love Classics series, where they're showing 4 different Black Love movies every Sunday in February. Are there some other things like this happening at theaters around Tampa?
Absolutely. So the Beach Theater is doing a special Valentine's Day showing. We have just different things around town. We're so blessed to have so many of these cool indie theaters. Greenlight Cinema over in St. Petersburg. They recently have their Greenlight Lounge, so you can do dinner, drinks, and then go over and watch a movie. And so really there's something for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Now, some people who may be in love, but they're not for all of the gushy sort of lovey-dovey stuff. Are there any spooky Valentine's Day events happening around Tampa Bay this weekend?
Ooh, spooky is a good question. You could just go to the castle. That's always a good
Right.
one.
Yeah.
You know, we're very lucky, Ybor City. We have like this super cool Gothic nightclub, and just go and dance. You can wear anything, be anyone, and just kind of like have a good time and people watch.
Mm-hmm. What about theme parks? Because we've got a few in the area, right? So, you know, I know theme parks kind of go all out for Halloween, but do you find some of that happening around Valentine's Day at the theme parks?
I will admit I'm like less of a theme park person, so I can't like speak to if there's something like specific going on,
Mm-hmm.
but I do think it kind of has that similar atmosphere to like the Florida State Fair, where it's like you can go and really make a whole day of it, which is I think kind of a nice way, especially because like Valentine's Day falling on a Saturday, you kind of get both of those days to fill with some fun stuff. So it's definitely a great option.
Yeah. Any places you should avoid on Valentine's Day? Like, where would you steer clear of this weekend?
I know that everyone is, you know, we got to make a reservation. You got to do, you know, the fancy restaurant and stuff like that. But all of my friends who have ever worked in restaurants say that this is like the worst day to go and try. And also, if you don't have a reservation for that ritzy place, it's too late. Don't worry
Yeah.
about
Good
it.
luck.
I always recommend going outside instead. You know, this is a fun opportunity to plan a picnic or, you know, have some drinks outside. Enjoy that great Florida weather. It's going to be amazing. It's not going to rain this weekend. It's going to be cool and sunny. So this is a great time to go to like a great park like Lettuce Lake Park in Tampa or Lassing or Vinoy in St. Petersburg. Take a day trip to Bok Tower Gardens over in Lake Wales, which is a super, super romantic spot. They're going to have a string quartet, and their singing tower is going to have some really cool bell music played there. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say that's where I would kind of lean more towards rather than going to like a place where we have a lot of great restaurants in town, but it is going to be pretty slammed.
Yeah. Anything sort of on your Valentine's Day weekend bucket list, Gabrielle? Like something you've always wanted to check out this weekend but haven't gotten around to yet?
Oh, that's such a good. You know, I actually have never brought my husband to the Manatee Viewing Center that Tico has over in Apollo Beach. So maybe this is the year we go. It's the perfect weather for it because it's, you know, when it's cooler outside, that's when all the manatees come and enjoy the warm water. And you can just see hundreds and hundreds of manatees. And I love, obviously, like my relationship, but I also love manatees. If I could pick one animal that I just want to cuddle, it would be that. So it's kind of a great time to do that. And I don't know, maybe I'll let him know that we should do that.
Yeah. All right. Sounds almost as fun as watching corgis run around on their tiny little legs.
We're very lucky. The opportunity is everywhere.
Yeah. Gabrielle Khaleesi, culture and nostalgia reporter at the Tampa Bay Times. Thank you so much for your insights. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I hope that you have fun this weekend.
Yeah, you as well. Well, coming up next week on Florida Matters Live and Local, we'll speak with an FBI agent about thinking before posting online, how to stay safe online, that is. We're also going to talk to a professor about his cool music class at the University of Florida. So if you are a punk enthusiast, you want to tune in for that one. That's our show for today, though. Florida Matters Live and Local. Executive producer is Grayson Doctor. Our producers are Amelie Horace and Quincy Walters. Our engineers are Jackson Harp and Geo Garvin. Jackson composes the theme music, and Malika Hollis handled the video today. You can subscribe to Florida Matters wherever you get your podcasts and watch on WUSF's YouTube channel. I'm Matthew Petty. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and we'll see you next week. Have a great weekend.